Step into the game, we're talking wood and grain. Charles bring the heat on Southern Yellow Pine. Mascot U.S. species, all is on the line. Gregg with the spruce, keeping knowledge defined. Ash and moderates, drop the facts in the booth. We on the buy, the sell ain't no hidden truth. Economics and trends, we got it all so clear. Lumber Word Podcast, best believe we're here. If you wanna make more, get in on the score. Join us every week, you'll be hungry for more. Love a been keen, though, whoop made known. Such rain Charleston, slide, plum ram known. Open to the scene, with the lumber supreme. Charles laying down facts with that southern yellow bling. Matt got that U.S. swagger like strong timber beams. Gregg's insights on spruce, rewrite the themes. Got the buy side talk, we stacking that flow. Selling knowledge, every week we still a show. Join the Lumber Word crew, let your business grow. For the sharpest minds, is what a place to go.
Let's kick it off. Episode, I think it's 151. First episode of the year on the 8th. Lots to talk about.
2026, baby.
Matt, welcome back. Happy New Year. Gregg, Happy New Year. New Year's or New Year? I can't remember what that is. New Year. Yeah.
New Year.
So let's jump right into the market. I mean, we closed out the end of the year. Still selling a lot of trucks. It seems to me, driving on the way in, talked to a guy that kind of buys pine and spruce all over the eastern United States, calling me looking for trucks that I sold last week. And he said he didn't need them for 2 or 3 weeks. He was wondering if he could get them like tomorrow.
No,
and I think on spruce, there's a little of that going on because now spruce and pine, with pines move up in price, is starting to put pressure on the other stuff. There's not a lot of that switching going off on certain things. Again, if you were going back and forth. And Matt, as Matt just said, he's been busy. So I know on spruce, we've been busy selling stuff, and a little bit of pine we sell. So Matt, let's kick it off with you. What are you seeing going into the beginning of the year here?
My only regret is that I didn't sell the January contract about December 15th, right before I took off for Christmas vacation. And this is, I was talking to Rob Cross, my futures guy. He's been on the show. This would have been one of those real interesting periods of time where you could actually make money on your cash and your futures at the same time. So like we've had a $30 or $40 sell-off in January here in the last 3 weeks. And at the same time, I'm raising my prices on my trucks, my cars. I'm really busy. I'm optimistic. I don't know if I'm just the one lucky guy that has the right thing at the right time right now, but I'm getting flooded with orders and inquiry and then more orders and more inquiry and higher prices. So, is it a runaway? No, but it's definitely positive, and I'm feeling pretty happy about how this week started off the new year. Real happy.
No, Matt, I think, you and I talked about this, a little bit yesterday, and, I think that clearly there was really no inventory purchasing in that November, December time period when you usually get, guys starting to build some Q1 inventory. I think that there's just a lot of people who, with the permanent curtailments, the temporary curtailments, and we've got some prices that have moved up that people are realizing that they need to start building a little bit of inventory. And the other thing I had two things that I'll highlight. One is that we've seen a much more active multifamily segment in looking to cover jobs for the next 30, 60, 90 days. And the other, and a guy asked me about it. If you remember back early mid-December, we said, hey, here's the play: buy yellow pine futures, sell SBF futures. That spread has changed almost $100 1,000 in the last 6 weeks. Pine's up from, at that point in time, we were buying pine futures in the 360s. They're now 444, and spruce and January spruce at that time was in the 560s, and now it's 520s. So.
Can I interrupt you there for a second? It's almost like Matt, Gregg, we know what we're talking about sometimes, and even though it's not, even though it's not advice, if you have an ego and you think we're stupid, just turn this part of it off for a few seconds. We're pretty good at what we do, and we're wrong sometimes, but like that's a perfect example. If you listen to this podcast, that trade on one contract would have been $2,000 plus, right? And I guarantee you nobody else made you aware of that in this market. So that's why you listen to this podcast for just simple things like that. And I do know people that actually did that. And one reason I can tell, because they told me, and I could see the open interest went up on Pine since we first talked about that by like 100.
So
And
two
I just want
thoughts
to say,
on that.
Matt, the only thing that actually was upset was he kept coming in for days going, hey, do you want to buy more Pine contracts? And I'm like, yeah, no, we got enough, it was like an aside.
That's okay. That's okay. I mean, be happy for what we did, right?
Ashley,
exactly.
As long as I've known Ashley, he is the king of the Texas hedge. What are you? Are you long cash? Yeah. Are you long futures? Yeah. No. In all seriousness, there's two things that you bring up that your comments made me think of these two things. One is that maybe 5% of the industry uses futures on a regular basis. Maybe it's 3%. And I don't know what to tell the industry other than this. You should use futures. You should learn futures. You should try to understand futures, because if you don't use it, you're missing out on so many different opportunities that would be opening up for you. Not just in terms of like insuring your purchases, if you want to view the futures contract as an insurance policy, but also like today, I just did 5X bits. I'm taking 5 cars of material to my inventory. And to me, it's a perceived value. It's something that I want. It's a product that I want. And I can get it out of the board simply because I know how to do it. And I bought the futures contracts, right? So look, we got to get the industry away from this fear mindset of not doing things that they don't understand. Look, put some effort into it. Read some books. Talk to some people. I highly encourage people to start actually trade futures. Don't just talk about it. Don't just call your buddy and say, hey, futures is up today or futures is down today. Get in there and mess around and figure it out. Like you'll actually can benefit greatly from using that tool. It's available to us, and our industry is really bad at using that tool compared to like guys that trade pork bellies and cattle futures and orange juice. And it's kind of embarrassing, really, how our industry is so afraid of this little thing. But then the other thing that you bring up, Ashley, is slow your roll, buddy. I don't want you to jinx us. We just started the first week. You're already patting yourself on the back. It's like, hey, 1 week does not make a trend. But let's hope that we can sort of see through the fog of war here. We've had really 9 months. From the high of the year was in March last year. And we basically spent the last 9 months of 2025 going down with a couple of little blips here and there. But for the most part, those were head fakes, rumors, tariff talk, whatever you want to call it. The vast direction was just a steady downward, and it's been dragging on people. It's tough when you gotta, if you're just a guy trading lumber, or you're a distributor, or you're even a retail buyer. It gets tedious in operating in those conditions. It's nobody enjoys that. So let's hope that 2026 is a little bit more enjoyable.
Well,
so that brings me. Go ahead, Ash. Go ahead.
Just the current dynamics where we're at right now, going into the end of the year. I think there was a lot of uncertainty. I know as distributors and people that put wood on the ground like us, Matt, you live in the world where you sit on a mill floor and a trading floor, which gives you a lot insight to see the flow. I think I could tell you in the Eastern, Spruce, and a couple other, we weren't really competing against any mills because they kind of went into their holiday, some temporary curtailments. And with just how slow cars are moving around this time of year, we got a lot more business, and we've seen a lot more business. Now, the real question is going to be what happens when some of these mills are back? What's it going to look like? They're coming back now. And we'll have to see. I got one of the first offerings from a mill that I hadn't seen in like 3 weeks yesterday. So that's going to be interesting. Any thoughts there?
From what I'm seeing is that mills have a little bit of a shipping file right now. You think about what happened in December. They cleared the decks of all of their dressed inventory, then they shut down and they curtailed. So they're back up. They don't have a whole lot of pressure on them. And Ash, your point of rail service is slow out of the gate to start the year. I bought some cars that this week shipping the week of like 126. I mean, that lumber is not going to be available to us until sometime in mid late February. If you're a Western mill and you're 126 shipment and you're shipping cars to Texas, one of those cars there, Matt, March.
At the earliest, it's 4 weeks. I mean, if it's a border mill, you maybe get it in 3 weeks. But if it's coming out of Prince George or northern BC or Alberta, most likely it's a 4 to 5 week transit time, with all the handing off from one railroad to another. I mean, a lot of those, they'll go through 3 different hands before they get to your reload.
Yeah, another thing, talking to somebody on the way into work, I try to make phone calls on the way into work now. So I'm not just staring out the window. Guy was telling me that they sell mid-sized to larger builders across the U.S. We kind of, and check my thought process here because I thought it was interesting. He goes, some of our builders a couple of weeks ago or a week ago called us and wanted us to reduce their lumber pricing because they heard the price was down. So I think there's about a 3-week lag in pricing with when these home builders hear with pricing going down. It's actually already on the way back up, right? In a way,
I guess you would think they would be a little bit more.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, does that sound out of he's like, yeah, they called us and wanted us to reduce our price.
No, just say no. Just say no.
Yeah, well, but I mean, yeah. And at the same time, people were running light inventory. So
what do we think? What do we think is like? What's the So we're in a period of seasonal strength, right? So lumber typically makes a high sometime second, third week in February to early April. We highlight that. I mean, spruce mills, even at today's prices, are losing, substantive amount of money. They're not going to increase their production. I mean, my wild card is, hey, if yellow pine's up, what are we saying? Like a narrows is up $60-$70 a thousand from the low trade. I'm scratching my head going, how much short multifamily business is there that's still out there to cover? And is this price move going to force more people into looking at, hey, I just say it's like, I sold a job this morning. It's like, hey, the first phase of this, ship it, 30 days or sooner. And then I want another phase to ship in late February, early March. Whereas for most of last year, that stuff was bought like, 2 weeks before it was due because they were fine holding it short.
Are you able to get an appropriate premium? I mean, or do you just pricing it as cash transactions at this point if you're going to be shipping it that soon? How do you view that?
I mean, this first tranche was strictly a cash transaction. I mean, honestly, Matt, we continue to get inquiry for stuff for next week's shipment, and we're realistically to most destinations with our shipping file. I mean, we're probably close to quoting the week of the 26th on trucks anyhow. We'll be lucky to be on time on all the stuff that we've sold for the week of the 19th. Just,
So one thing I noticed this week,
we're shipping in, it's weather. We got yards up in Buffalo, New York. They've got like snow up there. We got yards in Detroit and in Massachusetts, and it's winter.
I mean, logistics is an issue that people don't really think about, but they always kind of pop up in this period of time, right? Like you get really cold weather and freezes railroads to the tracks, and I mean, you just get issues that occur with rail shipments, but you also get issues with trucking. Knock on wood, the weather's been good down in the south, so I don't have any issues right now with trucking. But I can see a scenario where over the next 60, 90 days, guys that have some wood in the field are going to benefit, just because they've got it and they can ship it. It won't even really be a price thing. It'll just be an availability thing. So I'm going to watch, my goal here for the next several months is to just manage my inventory in such a way that I don't just dump it all at the bottom. I want to hold on to some of it. I want to have a little bit of a more measured, tempered attitude towards sales going forward, because I feel like in my heart of hearts, it's going to be harder for me to buy this lumber, not easier to buy this lumber going forward.
The lumber market can be unpredictable, but with the right tools, you can make confident decisions. Fastmarkets is the trusted home of the Random Lengths Weekly Report, providing detailed pricing for over 1,600 products, including softwood lumber, structural panels, and more across North America. As for hardwood markets, the Hardwood Market Report is your go-to source for pricing benchmarks, market commentary, and in-depth monthly insights through HMR Executive. These resources give you clarity in a complex market, helping you stay informed and prepared. Fastmarkets Random Lengths price assessments are derived from verified price inputs collected via online submission forms, authenticated physical documentation, and interactions with buyers and sellers across the supply chain. All data is evaluated within Fastmarkets' proprietary assessment platform, Mind, in strict accordance with our published methodologies. Each assessment undergoes a rigorous approval process prior to publication. Key benchmark commodities are subject to independent third-party audits to ensure alignment with Fastmarkets methodologies and compliance with IOSCO principles for price reporting agencies. Get started with Fastmarkets today. Visit fastmarkets.com/lumbertalk to find out more.
It's just my experience tells me that. And now, whether that actually bears truth, we'll see.
What kind of upside do you think that you have in pricing from here, right? Well, how much do you think the market could move up over the next 30 to 60 days?
30 days, maybe another 50, 90 days, a couple hundred. I chose 800 as the high of the year, Chicago. I mean, we're still a long ways away from that. So, maybe I'm a dreamer. Isn't there a song about that? But
that's John Lennon.
Yeah.
Dreamer.
So I don't know, but here I do want to make another observation.
That's Supertramp, Greg.
Supertramp. Yeah.
It's Supertramp. Matt was on.
All the Gen Z guys are like, who?
Yeah.
We're like boomers now.
What's up, Charles?
There we are. So one other little quick observation before we let Charles take over and drive the ship. Even my crappy lengths, my 2x4 number 3 8s and 10s and like, old dusty lumber, my beaks and feathers, that's all going away. It's like the pile is shrunk down to nothing. And that tells me that the economy and the short, cheap lumber coming out of Canada is drying up. They don't want to ship it across the border because what's the realization? If you sell me a bunch of 2x4 8-foot number 3 out of Prince George at $220 mil, and you're paying a 45-cent tax on that, you're netting about 120 FOB mil for a residual product. Well, you'd be better off putting that in containers and shipping it over to Taiwan or something. So a lot of that cheap industrial type lumber is tightening up, and that's going to help me, but also help U.S. producers with their low grades. So I see that changing rather rapidly here. It really started about 3-4 weeks ago, and it hasn't gotten any better for the buyer. It's much harder to buy that stuff.
So Matt, while we're still talking where the seat you sit in, we're going into expiration here on futures in a week or so, and people are EFPing and so forth. So the two publications that print coastal hem fur, one's still $395 and one's like $415 coast. So where is the market on that?
I'm on the $415 side of things. If we were going to go out and chase some business today, which we don't need to, because thanks to some people, we have an order file on 2x4. But yeah, I'd say 515, 520 Chicago is really kind of what the actual trading market is. And there isn't a lot of hem fur 2x4 and 2x6 around in the open market.
Why is that?
So
Why is that?
I just think that the mills have gone back to a heavier Doug fir diet in the short term. They have choices. Most of these mills out in the West are multi-species. They'll just go back and forth between Doug fir and hem fir, and right now they're into Doug fir. And then maybe 30 days from now they'll go back into heavier hem fir diet. It really just is log supply.
Okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, no, it's interesting. Like Weyerhaeuser doesn't make hem fir anymore. Like, how many big hem fir coastal hem fir producers are there? You guys are like the biggest, right?
Well, there's us, there's Sierra, there's RSG, there's High Cascade runs it from time to time. You've got the inland mills, they run it. They can ship into the board if they want to.
Yeah.
So that's your Potlatch, Bennett, IFG. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else really of any maybe Interfor and Canfor if you include their Canadian production. But yeah, I mean it's a small Rolodex of people to call.
Yeah, for sure. That's good feedback. That's actually great feedback. And then other items at your mills, the 2x4, 2x6, 8, 9, and 10. How are those items moving?
Those are up, like Gregg said last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever we last did this, they're up like $40 to $60 across the board and sticking. So we've sold more studs this week at the higher prices and further out lead times. And, I think we feel like the studs were the first thing to get better. And now the dimensions starting to perk up this week and catch up to where studs have moved. I'd say dimensions more like 2x6 is quite a bit better. You called that one 6 months ago, Ashley. And
hold on, let me pat my other back, my other side of my other back here.
You're gonna get sore. But no, 2x6 is quite a bit better. 2x8, 2x10, and 2x12, there's not a lot of it being produced because the log size is shrinking. And so I can see a scenario where all species wides are going to get a lot more price momentum here over the next 30 to 60 days. Like we're talking big chunks, not $5 increments, but 30, 40, 50, $100 changes in price. So just lack of availability on the wides, I think, is going to be an issue.
And just
Charles, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, buddy.
We you came
Happy New Year,
came to the
fellas.
party a little late, so we took full credit on the buying Southern Yellow Pine CME contract months ago.
I think it was y'all's idea anyway. I think I listened
That's
to you.
one of the benefits. So look at
I listened to you, but I did acknowledge that Ashley would come in for days after that and go, hey, how many more? You're going to buy some more? You're going to buy some more? We got enough. But we highlighted how that trade, buying Jan Southern Yellow Pine, selling Jan SBF. If you did that, you're that $100 plus $1,000 return.
Yep.
The guy asked me today, he goes, should I reverse that now? And I've yet to analyze that. So
did you send a surgeon? Did you send a surgeon? Did you send? You're going to mail him a surgical mask on that one? Then?
Well, no. Charles just gave me the answer. Not yet. Right.
Charles, like one of the things that we're talking about here, one of the biggest dynamics of all the species and all the business right now, and I think this will lead to talking about how multifamily has picked up. I think it kind of points back, in my opinion, to Southern Yellow Pine going up, because that's now thrown everybody off. It was the one species you could call and buy cheaper every day for the last 6 months until 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it's up substantially. So, Charles, why? What dynamics are you seeing, and how much more upside do you see in that?
I mean, the pine market was kind of in a it was in the shitter, honestly.
Yeah.
A lot more substantially from a price point, break-even standpoint than any other species in North America. But the big thing that, in my opinion,
it wasn't just in the shitter. It was like when you walk up to one and you look in its projectile. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I didn't want to get so graphic, Ash.
Yeah, that's pretty visual.
No, is that the one where you flush it and it comes back up? That's what you're talking about?
Oh God, let's stop, please.
All right. Anyway, you had a lot of holiday shutdown, a lot of holiday PM stuff going on in the South, and a lot of majors that did it, and they did it across kind of their network, their footprint, right? So and this is a conversation I had multiple times since 12/1 of 25, right? We can talk about how much we progress and how much appreciation we've experienced, But two things that are missing this and leading up to the spring buy in Q1 and 26 is number one, we didn't have a turkey buy in pine as we typically do. And we didn't really have any firming up around Halloween. So typically Halloween is going to be your first conjecture of appreciation. Then it's going to lock. You're going to have minimal appreciation, maybe a little bit of a pullback. Then you're going to have a turkey buy and it's going to flow into the first part of December. That did not happen this year. So what happened is in the beginning of December, things escalated so quickly that a lot of people were left flat-footed and just bought whatever they could get their hands on because they didn't know how long it was going to last, right? And quite frankly, there's ways to be prepared outside of owning physical lumber, i.e. trading the board or hedging some of the stuff that you may own or may be obligated to, right? That prevents you from overpaying, so to speak. There's a lot of people that have done some chasing. I can tell you from experience, I think, and what we're seeing in pricing we have seen and transacted on, prices that we got delivered market, Central Florida, Atlanta, Carolinas, the week before Christmas are down $30. Okay. The urgency is at a lot lower, slower pace, a lot lower of a intensity level, but there's still a need for lumber. What I think, and to kind of couple that with the precipitous softness in spruce, right? And if you look at the past 24 months, pine leads one way or the other, up or down. And typically it's 6-inch that leads the charge all the way, right? So if pine goes to appreciate because people are transitioning due to tariffs, due to, oh no, we're never going to see Canadian spruce again. Oh, it takes too long to get Doug fir from the PNW to Virginia, whatever the case may be, right? Not saying that's true, Matt. Just
no, I get it. I'm listening.
But what you had that scenario and everybody kind of jumped in. But there's going to be an opportunity to buy. And if you're not diligent and you don't recognize it, you're going to miss it.
So you're telling me
and don't know when it is.
Pine,
don't know when the pullback's going to happen.
It's strengthened quite a bit through the holiday, and now it's off a little bit this week. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's Cliff Notes.
And I'm the opposite. I'm going up. I'm raising prices. I'm busier than hell.
Exactly. And to my point, right? Pine. If you look at the past 18 months, 6 months led the charge. This is where I got off track because my ADD moved on to something else. I apologize. But 6-inch pine typically leads the charge up or down, right?
Yep.
And then what happens is people recognize there's still a equitable spread in other North American species, and they transfer those buying habits or opportunities to the other ones, right? Now that they realize their pine obligations are covered, or there's an alternate that can prove profitable or even more profitable based on their species pricing requirements. So now what I see and what I've seen over the past 2 years is pine is not going, this thing's not going to crater. And anybody that says it's going to crater, I think there's demand has not changed, but supply is now really, we're on the cusp of equilibrium, in my opinion. And if you have other North American species that continue to decline in production levels, it's going to get even worse. So I think there's going to be an opportunity, but when pine hits a level, people stop buying it. The taste for it just
is that because they'll just switch back to some other species that they used to buy, or is that because they just know how to play the game?
Hey, stop.
And we've seen that. We've seen it on 4-inch up north a little farther. Yeah.
Yep.
So they
go back to what they're used to.
We have a country that's turned into like a melting pot for species. Then basically, it's like all these places that used to be no yellow pine, no hem fir, spruce only. Now it's like
a buffet.
Yeah, now it's like, hey, all you can eat. We'll take whatever.
Yeah.
It's like Sizzler. It's like Sizzler, if that's still around.
Perkins back in the day in the South is what I'd like to.
Can we talk a little bit about demand? So we're going to get
you demand.
We're going to get October housing starts report tomorrow. I think they'll probably end up the government should catch up with their statistics by, I don't know, Memorial Day, maybe. My big wild card, and I've had this conversation. I've had multiple conversations with people that basically end-use buyers that are like, yeah, business is, we're not expecting any business to be any better. It's, at best kind of the level that it's at. And, so based on that, we're not going to change our buying habits, et cetera, et cetera. So I look at that and I go, a surprise to the market would be if if demand was somehow marginally to substantively lower / marginally to substantively higher. And, we came into 2025 expecting business to get a little bit better. And it ended up, I think when we're all said and done, housing starts for the year will be down a few percentage points from 24 to 25. So, and I know, Ash, you wanted to talk about Trump's housing initiative a little bit. You want to
So
dig into
I follow Lance Lambert. I subscribe to his residential club.
Shout out
And
to Lance.
Anybody that's on X or Twitter, it's at News Lambert is his handle. And I think he does the best job of in real time going through a lot of that data of what's going on. I haven't read
We'd love to have Lance on again.
Yeah, I haven't read in the last hour, but what I heard yesterday is Trump said he doesn't want large buyers of institutional homes. He never put what size that is on, because if you look at, I think one of the largest amount of.
Are you saying size matters?
It does. Yeah, big.
I knew. I had.
This is a family show.
Greg was
my question. I think everybody has to look at who is he looking at? The people that buy 1,000 plus, the people that buy, because there are, you can look at people that buy 1 to 10 homes, and you can look at Airbnb. What's he including into that? And then you look at what markets it could affect most. It's the southern markets like Atlanta, Phoenix, Dallas, Houston, Florida markets, Atlanta, where there's a lot more BTR purchasers than there are in other markets. And again, without knowing the exact details or what he's going to come out and say, I'm going to go back to the way we played this whole thing with lumber last year. It doesn't mean anything until it means something. And right now, I don't know what it means.
If you follow it to the logical conclusion, it would mean that there's
logic. Did you say logic?
I mean, if you're going to continue to build homes,
we defy logic around here, Matt.
Let's say you've got what percentage of the new home construction is going to
8%.
BTR? 8%.
8%.
So that's 8% more
Is that
inventory.
8% of every from one home buyer a year to 1,000 home buyers a year? Is that 8%?
8% total. So 92% of the market is residential home buyers. So now you just increase your inventory by 8% to that segment of the marketplace, which means you're going to have to be a little bit more flexible and maybe drop your prices a little bit more. That'll squeeze the margins some with the builders. And, I don't know how much more squeezing they can take. I think Lennar's done a really good job. If we've talked about it on the show, Lennar's done a really good job of following the market down and moving their inventory and just keep incentives, just keep on keeping on. But what about all the rest of them? And so if your big customer out is call up your buddy at a BTR organization and move 100 homes off your for sale sheet, and that option is now off the table, well, yeah, you're gonna have to change your strategy a little bit. I think that would actually benefit the buyer, not necessarily the seller.
Well, that's the whole point of the conversation, right? The whole point of the conversation is to make homes cheaper, right? Or more affordable.
More affordable. Okay. So just time out. I'm not sure that that's going to make anything more affordable. And think about it like this. If like right now you're somebody, and there's a lot of these now are being built where they pre-contract for saying, hey, we're going to buy a whole subdivision as for a rental pool, right? So I look at that, that's a positive for the builders. It's a positive for people that don't have the money for a down payment. If you want to make housing more affordable, here's 3 things that Trump should do. Number 1, stop student loan debt. Stop indebting like young people so that when they graduate from college, they got this noose around their neck. Number 2, lower mortgage rates. The Federal Reserve, they're happy to buy up treasury bonds, buy up mortgage-backed securities, bring that spread down. They could drop mortgage rates by 1.5% right now. That's going to make it more affordable. And obviously, anything that you do to raise incomes is going to help.
Yeah,
and
that's the part of
number 4, reduce the cost of building new homes, regulations, right?
The third one you said, where maybe we can get better income, right? An increase in income for people in America. That's the one thing that I think is the wild card in 2026. I personally believe, my opinion is that the average person in America is going to make more money in 2026, and they'll have more disposable income in 2026 than they did in 2025 or 2024. And I think it's going to shock people. I just think it's just a combination of certain things. Some things that people buy all the time are deflating, right? Gas, oil, anything
Absolutely.
related to
Gas
petroleum,
is a big
right?
thing.
Food prices are way down. Eggs used to cost $20. Now they cost 10. I mean, it's like I buy 5 dozen at a time for $10. Anyways, I just feel like people are going to have a little bit more freedom of spending in 2026 and a little bit more optimism economically.
Are you still relying on snail mail publications from the 70s to reach the forest products industry? It's time to upgrade. Advertise on the Lumber Word podcast and get in front of the lumber world every single week. Our episodes are tuned in by the largest segment of influencers inside and adjacent to the forest product sector. Decision makers who shape the industry. Ditch those tens of thousands spent on outdated print ads and project your product or service across the podcast universe instead. Ready to make the switch? Head to thelumberchannel.com, click on Connect, and drop us a line with your info. Let's amplify your message today.
The flip side of that is, Matt, and I'll jump to you, Charles, is that certain things are down, but if you're in a state that has real estate taxes, they're up substantially. If you buy insurance on a home, whether you're in a blue or a red state, that's up substantially.
Health insurance
is up substantially. And I think that offsets any little look at, if I can save $200 a year on gas, that's great. How can I save $12,000 a year on health insurance?
Hey, so Matt, to your point, we're projected, because of one big beautiful bill, it's projected somewhere between $100 and $150 billion of tax refunds will be going out in Q1. And, that in addition to withholdings being $100 to $50 to $200 billion lower in 2026 than they were at the start of 2025. So, that's a decent amount of money, and that's really spread out really nicely between, across the income quartiles, right? So, obviously the more you make, the more your refund is, most likely, to a degree, but it's across the board.
Yeah. Charles, sorry, you were going to jump in.
I think Matt hit a lot of very true broad spectrum points, right? I mean, I feel like people are going to be a little bit more optimistic because some of the things that have happened, and good, bad, or indifferent, no matter what your stance is, things that are going on are creating a certain level of reassurance or confidence in moving forward, right? And I do agree with that, Matt. The one thing I will say is in 26, and just people in general and work ethics, right? We talk about life speeches about money. The big thing that I think we're missing as a society is everybody has a certain expectation of what their income should be, and they don't want to pay the invoice for what the work is required to get there. And I only say that from experience because I had that experience with an employee literally this morning. And it's just one of those things to where if you want to make more money, you provide more value, and you do that daily.
Be useful.
And if you can provide more value, people will pay you for that. So anybody that's listening to this, and I'm young, I get it, but if you can solve problems for people, and especially people that have the ability to employ you, you will make more money because you make their life easier.
Yeah.
Point blank, college degree, no college degree. I don't care if you have a driver's license at this point, because it's so bad trying to find people that will actually work and do and accomplish and put checks and boxes at the level that they need to be executed.
Why is that, Charles?
Anybody can
You're an
operate.
active hirer and firer of employees with your business. Why do you suppose that is? You're in it.
But Charles, what about my personal days?
Hey, what?
No, serious
No, but
question.
Matt's got a great
Wait a
point
minute.
What's your
there.
opinion?
Well, yeah,
I need a
I
I need a mental health day. I think I'm gonna take.
You
We're
know
we're
what?
fresh out of
You
that,
actually
Greg.
do need a mental health day. You look like a train wreck.
Yeah. But I will tell you, from a standpoint of what's the cause of it. Nobody has any risk associated or any sort or any level of understanding of risk versus reward, right? So if they show up and they operate at a mediocre, sorry, they have done that their entire life and they've been rewarded for it. And if anybody's ever came down on them, it's a generational thing. If people have come down on them and there's a lack of accountability, if you have a certain level of accountability, you hold yourself to a higher standard and you execute faster, you execute better, you execute more efficiently. So I think that's a big indicator and a big cause of why things are the way they are.
You're saying it all started when they started giving out participation medals? Is that what you're saying?
You mean
Yeah, that was in like 2009.
they didn't have a
yeah.
tiger mom?
That's exactly right.
And when all the generations started blaming the boomers for taking their life away from them and their future.
There's some truth to that, dude.
I was staring at 2x6 14s the other day and how cheap they were and how I saw European ones like at 440 on the docks. And I'm like, this is not my idea. My buddy Eric, who I was talking to this morning, said, hey, why don't they just pencil trim those for 12s? And I'm like, holy shit. You can buy 2x6 14s cheaper than 2x6 12s right now, which are a coveted item. So there, anybody listening, whether you're a mill that has the 440 wood sitting on the dock, I saw what your 12s are selling for. You're selling them for cheaper than you're selling 14s cheaper than your 12s.
It does cost to cut. It does cost to cut them,
Yeah, unless you're shipping them out to
and you got two freights. I mean, you got $85 in it, and you got downfall 2 foot.
Still really cheap. It's still really cheap, right? I'm just saying, it's for the people that want to put it on or have their own saws and absorb that. There's a handful of distributors out there that do it.
I mean, would you say 2x6 Euro 14s at 440?
Yeah, I saw volume on the ground.
That's damn near the price of number 3 in spruce.
Yes.
What are 2x6 12s trading at?
540.
Okay.
No, probably higher.
535, 540.
Probably higher than that.
540. Yeah, probably higher.
Call it 5.
You guys have any 2x6 near Texas? Because I need to buy a truck.
No.
Cape.
Okay.
Cape.
Greg,
Yeah.
I like those fancy headphones. What are those?
These are my my Bose.
Those are nice, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, those are nice.
Those are legit.
Well, I mean, I just figured, I was trying to like get, I know Matt usually wears his headphones, and so that I wanted to get in with all the cool kids. Hey, great to have great to be back in 2026, guys.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sign off. We got an exciting guest coming on next week, Ash, you think?
I think we'll see.
Potentially,
yeah.
He was all in the dark. I'll just show up. This time I'll be on time. That was seriously my fault.
No,
I'm realizing I need glasses more than I thought I did.
Are you all good? You're all good.
Yeah.
All right, boys, I appreciate it. We'll get back into it and be on it again next week.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, guys. Thanks a
Y'all be
lot.
good.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Yep.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Lumber Word. The Lumber Word podcast is dedicated to engaging conversations about the lumber industry, including trading ideas, market trends, and evaluations of overvalued and undervalued assets. We wish to emphasize that the discussions and opinions expressed in this podcast are purely for informational and entertainment purposes. They should not be considered as financial or investment advice. We encourage our listeners to make their own financial decisions, taking into account their unique circumstances and financial goals, and to seek professional financial advice if necessary.